So friends, we're only 12% of the way into our 4-year mandate, but we have already delivered on 39% of our commitments. Promises made, promises kept. We promised to pass Bill number 1, the Carbon Tax Repeal Act. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to bring in the job creation tax cut that economists project will create up to 58,000 new full-time private sector jobs and grow our economy by over 2%. Promise made, promise kept. You're getting the hang of this. We promised to pass the Open for Business Act, bringing balance back to labor laws, to encourage new job creation and to restore workplace democracy with a secret ballot vote. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to pass a red tape reduction law, appoint a red tape reduction minister, and cut job-killing red tape by 1/3 over 4 years. We're well on our way there. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to scrap the NDP's unconscionable Bill 6 attack on our farmers and, following consultations, to introduce a Farm Freedom and Safety Act. Thank you, Minister Dreeshen. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to stop the NDP's drive to politicize the school curriculum, and we promised to develop a modern curriculum focused on teaching essential knowledge and skills. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to restore respect for parental authority by proclaiming the Education Act. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to bring in a skills for job agenda, to quadruple the number of apprenticeship spots for high school kids, and to increase support for trades training, because we believe a trade certificate has every bit as much value and merit as a university degree. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to create the Alberta Indigenous Opportunities Corporation to help get pipelines built by backstopping Aboriginal co-ownership of major resource projects, backed by $1 billion of the faith and credit of the Alberta Crown. Thank you, Minister Rick Wilson. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to implement a Fairness for Newcomers action plan and a law to ensure that immigrants get a fair and fast process for their credentials and skills to be recognized so they can quickly contribute fully to the Alberta economy. Thank you to Parliamentary Secretary Yassim and Minister Copping. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to take real action to help people trapped in the spiral of addiction or facing mental health challenges. I appointed Associate Minister for Mental Health and Addictions, Jason Luan, and he is investing an additional $150 million to save lives by fighting the addictions crisis. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to bring back Senate elections. Easy peasy. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to pass a recall law so you can hold us to account between elections. And guess what? MLA Mark Smith's beat the government to the punch with his own private member's bill, which I expect will be law shortly. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to sue the federal government, challenging the constitutionality of their threatened carbon tax. Promise made, promise kept. Thank you, Justice Minister Schweitzer. We promised to fight Bill C-69, the No More Pipelines law. And we managed to persuade the Senate to accept all of our proposed amendments rewriting that bill. But because the Liberal government rejected those amendments, we're now following through with our promised constitutional challenge to C-69 as a clear and unacceptable intrusion into our exclusive authority to manage our resources. Thank you, Minister Savage. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to implement a fightback strategy to stand up for Alberta's resources. So we've launched the Canadian Energy Centre, the public inquiry into the foreign-funded campaign to block our resources, the Indigenous Legal Defence Fund, and we proclaimed into law the so-called turn off the taps legislation on day one. Promise made, promise kept. We promised to appoint an expert panel to advise us on how to bring Alberta's finances in order and how to implement a credible plan to balance our budget in this term of government. Thanks to the work of our brilliant Finance Minister, Travis Toews, that's another promise made, promise kept.